Welcome back to Dark Storytime and part 2 of the Enfield Poltergeist with my awesome host and special guest, Bert from Retraced Echoes.
Oh man, here we are. Look at my shirt. Look at this. If you know, you know, folks. If you know, you know. Anomaly detected. What is going on, everybody? Listen, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm absolutely having a blast so far. I mean, I've literally been here for like 2 minutes, but we had a blast on the first video. If y'all haven't seen that, you should see John, man. He was letting his sister in the house with some possessed kids over there. Something old Bert wouldn't have done. I can assure you that much.
Sprinkling holy water. It was crazy.
Holy water. But yeah, over at Retraced Echoes, we do something very similar to kind of what John does. He does it a lot better than I do. But listen, we have a little bit of fun over there. But man, part 2, who would have thought we'd have made it this far, man?
Oh yeah.
Well, we did.
And it only gets creepier. Yeah. That's true. We're your modern day psychics.
That's right.
So we left you guys on a cliffhanger last time with letting you know that this poltergeist manifested itself. But before we jump into that, I would like to point out the fact that with this case and the skeptics, you had skeptics and you have believers. So, you know, Morris had this thing where he wanted to prove this case so much. So what he did was he had Janet, which she was the main focal point for the poltergeist activity. He had Janet visit a psychologist by the name of Peter Fennick. Now, not really knowing what to expect, Morris just kind of, was hoping for the best. But when Mr. Fennick pronounced Janet as being a 100% clean bill of health, that's when it started to be like, okay, yes, something is wrong here. Something's going on with this girl. And as you know, activity only continued to escalate.
Correct. The funny thing is, and whenever we look at these paranormal cases, I know when I research them, I'm always shocked when there's an epiphany of, oh, wait, no, this is legit.
Yeah.
And it always blows my mind because here's the thing, right? How many times do you have someone coming to your clinic that is saying, well, I might be possessed, or, hey, I might have something going on? Like, I would assume it doesn't happen often.
Nah.
So when let's say 1 out of 5 is legit, right? Like I did that. And I think you and I talked about it in the last video, like the Ammons case. Let's use that as an example.
Yes.
Some kid walking up backwards on a freaking hospital ceiling.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's always their mind is blown when they're like, no, they're definitely possessed, or there's definitely something going on. It just always cracks me up in these stories every single time.
And it's crazy because it's like, yes, of course, you can't believe everything you're told, but you've got these people that are going to these great lengths to tell you, no, you don't understand. This is really happening. Like, we can prove it. And if somebody's telling me that there's something outlandish going on, right, I'm going to nod and I'm going to be like, yeah, sure. But the minute they say, well, hold on a second, I can prove it. Let me show you.
Yeah.
That's when I'm going to be like, okay, there's one question you got to ask yourself. Do you really want to know?
Right.
Like, do you really want to know if what they're telling you is true? Or would you rather live in ignorance and just not believe them?
That it really depends on the day sometimes.
Yeah.
Depends on what you want to put in that report, would be my guess.
Yeah, seriously.
But when we talk about stuff like this, one thing that always comes to my mind, obviously with this, in this case, it's Morris that set this up for him, right?
Yeah.
If you came to me, right? Because we're in the same field.
Yeah.
And you said, hey, Bert, I got this case I want you to look into. Because it comes from you, I would assume that would hold some type of credence.
Absolutely.
So in a case like this, I mean, it's still the paranormal, right? And obviously, Morris was part of that paranormal. That's what he was known for. I would assume this guy would have been like, well, this is Morris. This is coming from him. This is kind of a legit staple in the community.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
I mean, some credibility at least. You know what I mean?
At a minimum. I mean, that's what he specialized in.
All right. So here's the thing. Now, after this psychologist determines that Janet's good, clean bill of health, it's actually really cool because Morris, Guy Playfair, like a few of the other people who were there just kind of to investigate, they really went out of their way to try and take care of these girls and help the family out. Because I don't know if we really went into this in the last video, but this family was like impoverished. You know, they weren't living on the streets like that, but they were what most would consider the bottom class of society. Mom is single mother, 4 kids, you know, divorced. She's doing her best to provide for these girls. And as we know, even in today's economy, it's rough for 2 parents. So, you know, even back then for 1 parent, it must have been really hard. So I love the fact that a lot of these people that came to check out the house and check out what was going on, it wasn't like they were just freeloading for a story. They really tried to take care of these girls. And it's not the first holiday that they funded for the family to go on, but they did send them on another holiday. And during this holiday, Peggy's brother, John, would have 2 of the most profound experiences that would pretty much cement this poltergeist in his mind as being 100% authentic. And the first situation was that he went to the house to grab an alarm clock. Now, he did this at night. Now, I wouldn't go into that house at night ever, whatever. So he goes into the house at night. And he's the only one there. So he makes his way to the room where the alarm clock is. Now, as he reaches for the door handle to the room, he notices that the door handle the knob is twisting. Mm-hmm. And he stops and he's like, hold on a second. Cause I'm pretty sure I'm the only one here. And he watches the doorknob twist and the door start to open. Now, it wasn't like in most paranormal cases where the door flings open, and no, it was literally like somebody was on the other side. Oh, hey, you're here. The door opens gently, opens up just wide enough for him to walk in. Now, his demeanor is what really caught me off guard, because he just kind of was like, yeah, okay, I came for an alarm clock. I'm going to get that alarm clock. And he walks into the room. When he walks into the room and he steps over the threshold, the door shuts behind him. Doesn't slam. There's nothing too physical. It's just a gentle shut and a click. And he looks back, and in his mind, he's partially freaking out, but he's telling himself, okay, the alarm clock is right there. He gets the alarm clock. He turns around. He walks back towards the door. Same thing. The doorknob slowly twists. The door opens gently, just enough for him to walk out. He steps out of the room. The door shuts back gently, and he leaves the house. And he runs home to his wife, and he tells her what happened, and he's freaked out.
Absolutely. And anyone would. You know what I'm saying? You know, one thing that you talked about at the very beginning when you started this segment, so they were extremely poor. And what most people don't know, the facility they lived in would be the equivalent of here in the States, what's known as subsidized housing.
Yep.
So they called them, I think the commons is what they called them there. So it was basically these apartments that technically the equivalent of like this city or state would pay for here. That's what they had, was like a subsidized housing there. So they was paying very little money.
Oh yeah.
But they also had very little things in the home. Like a TV was like top shelf for them.
Yeah.
So
it was, it's the more I looked into the story, the more I felt bad for them. And then when you got the skeptics who are leaning heavily on the fact that they're doing this for publicity. You know, it's an impoverished family. And it's just like, well, damn, you know, not that they needed that extra stress, but right. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to imagine what I would do in that situation. And I guess it's different because as a man, I would just be like, well, I guess I need another job. Like, I need to figure something out. You know, I got a sibling that lives around the block. Let me pick up a second job and let me just work. And I have my sibling help me out with the kids. But, you know, it's just different times, man. Different parents, I guess.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, it's a different time frame and it's the UK, right? So it's significantly different than how it was here in the States. So the one thing that I look at, the biggest thing I tell people all the time is when you listen to a story, you got to kind of put yourself in that time frame. And, you know, we're talking back then, women's jobs were not necessarily the highest paying of jobs. And the dad's kind of, for the most part, out of the picture.
Yeah.
So you've got this family, they're trying to piece it together. And another thing that a lot of people don't think about is back then saying your place is haunted was not a lavish thing. Like nowadays people would be like, man, that's so cool. But like back then, not so cool. So what was happening, I'm sure, with these little girls is they're going to school. They're already probably not on the quote unquote cool list. And now they're probably making fun of them going, oh, they're haunted. Oh, look at, like, I could only assume what they were going through.
Oh, I could just imagine. Yeah. It's horrible, man.
It's absolutely life changing for them.
Yeah. So the brother decides again, while they're on holiday, that he's going to take a trip over to the house. Now, I don't know the nature of the second visit. He doesn't really go into detail. But he does say that and just a quick note, this happened broad daylight, middle of the day. He enters the home for a second time while there's no one else there. So he thinks, and he passes by the living room and he sees someone sitting at the living room table. Now, it wasn't a specter. It wasn't a phantom. It wasn't a ghostly mirage. He saw an older gentleman sitting at the living room table with his back to him, and he could only see the back of his head. And he said he saw thick gray hair with a blue and white striped shirt. And he's thinking to himself, well, is this one of the investigators? So as he steps forward to speak to this man, that's when it clicks in his brain. Where am I? I'm in my sister's house, which is, they've been saying, is heavily haunted. Maybe I'll just introduce myself. And he said he closed his eyes, rubbed his eyes, and when he opened his eyes, the man was gone. The man was completely gone. There's no way this man could have just got up that fast and disappeared. He didn't make any noise. The door to coming in the house, he's standing in front of. The guy would have to pass by him to get to it. And he's just gone. He said when this happened, he turned around immediately. He ran out of the house. He went home and told his wife, I will never step foot in that house again. I am without a doubt 1000% certain that what my sister is saying is true. That house is haunted. And he refused to ever go back in there.
He did a couple of things I would have never done.
Yeah.
First one, I ain't never closed my eyes.
No.
In fact,
no.
I might stand there and hold them mugs open. Make sure that I don't blink.
Seriously.
There ain't no, if I'm seeing some dude that I know, this ain't, my sister said her kids was floating and now all of a sudden I'm seeing some dude sitting at a table that I know is not supposed to be there. Nope. Bert ain't closing his eyes, son.
No.
Ain't no way. And then,
oh man.
Second off, the fact that he decided he wanted to communicate.
Yeah.
Non-paranormal Bert. Don't let the shirt fool you. Okay. When I go on a ghost investigation, like a haunting investigation, that's that Bert. But IRL Bert's going to be like, well, we're going to have to burn this place down. I don't know any
Pretty
other way.
much.
It's like if there's a spider in Bert's house, listen, it's got to come down. I don't know what else to tell you.
Seriously.
Yeah. So,
and it's funny too.
That's brave of him.
Yeah. It's funny because, you know, it's like, I think we mentioned this in the last video, your primal instincts. So like he gets closer and immediately before he speaks to this man, it's like his senses are firing off. Like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Yep.
You're in your sister's house, the one that is supposedly haunted by a poltergeist. And there's a random dude sitting here.
Yeah.
100%. Not moving, still as a statue with his back to you.
Yep.
And there's no one else in the house.
Not supposed to be.
So some's going.
Yeah. You're explaining everything. Bert ain't doing it. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm going to see that ghost and I'm going to go, well, it's been real. And then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to pretend. My sister's going to be like, hey, did you go to the house today? No.
Nope.
Well, why not? Well, I saw someone there. It's not my problem no more. Whatever
I
you
guess you don't need me to check on your house.
I'm sure he's going to check on it for you. Don't you worry about it.
Oh my goodness. Seriously.
Yeah, no. Luckily, having these channels, I've gotten a lot more brave with time.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, normal me, nope. It's not happening. It's kind of like when people's like, well, when you go on an investigation, are you going to use a Ouija board? Hell no. What are you talking about? You crazy?
That's insane.
You want me to open up the door to hell? I don't think so. Not me.
Horrible idea. Horrible idea.
Yeah.
And if there's anyone watching right now who's wondering why that's a horrible idea, go to my YouTube page and look for my Ouija board stories. These are real stories of real experiences that I pulled from the internet. Listen to that video, and then you sit there and tell me if you think that's a great idea. Horrible idea.
My favorite people are the one that goes, you know, it was made as a game. Yeah, a game from the devil. I don't know what to tell you.
Jesus Christ. Doesn't mean it's a good. Listen, there are several games that you should never play. That doesn't mean it's a good game.
Well, that's the thing. How many times have you used something that had a completely different intended purpose?
Yeah.
So here's a great example. I wanted a boomstick holder. For anyone that doesn't know, boomstick's like the thing you hold and it's got your boom mic on the end.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do that if I ever did like live investigations. A boom mic holder, a good one, is about $150. I found a YouTube channel the other day that was using a fishing rod holder as a freaking boom pole holder. And I'm like, how much are those? $18. Same
there you
thing.
Go.
Ouija board may have been a game, but it might also open up some demon portals. That's all I'm saying.
Seriously.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's insane.
I see some dude sitting at a table. I'm out. I'm sorry. Listen. Now,
ain't got time for that.
Investigator Bert, I'll be like, sir, I see that you're a ghost. Would you like to have a talk? But not normal me. Nope.
Yeah. Seriously. Got to draw that line somewhere.
Got to have a line in the sand, John, always.
Now, think about this. Now, let's just say you decide, you know what? I want to go for a walk. It's nice. It's nice out. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to take a walk down to the corner store, maybe grab something for myself and just have a nice little stroll. And you're walking down the street and you're waving at your neighbors and everything's going good. And then you look up at someone's house because you see the lights on. And as you look up, you see a little girl floating past her window. You can see her feet and you can see her head. And you're like, hold on a second. And then you stop. And you're really looking now. Because you know you're not crazy for the most part. You know you're not crazy.
I got a YouTube channel, so a little crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she's floating.
100%.
Freely. She's not touching anything.
Looking right at her.
What do you do?
Pretend like I didn't see her and keep walking. That's what I do. I don't know what that was. But listen.
Oh, listen, that house was jumping. Yeah. You had several neighbors, and one of the people that saw it didn't even know any of the other neighbors, and they had the same exact story. This little girl floating past her window.
Yep.
Just floating back and forth.
Whenever I hear those stories, though, the first thing I think, because I do try to put myself in that mindset, and there's a lot of great stories where people's peeking in windows to see what's going on. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like there's the peeping Tom neighbors, and then there's the peeking the boogie monster neighbors. Okay. But this story has it. Another one was the Lindley Street haunting.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people looking through the windows.
Yup.
One of my favorite ones, Robert the Doll, that story. They would watch the doll going by the window. Now, I don't know if maybe you guys have seen this little movie called Chucky or not. Okay. If I see some doll walking by the window, nope, not today. Nope, not today.
Yeah, Robert the Doll, man. That's actually, not to get off topic, but that's a really good story. Robert the Doll. I looked into that one, and man, let me tell you, it's phenomenal. And the fact that along with the people seeing this doll moving back and forth, and they're thinking it's someone's child.
Yes,
you got someone actually knocked on the door,
right,
and said, "Hey, your child is upstairs," and that person looked at them and said, "We don't have no kids."
Right. Exactly.
And the people living in the house where Robert was locked in the attic,
right,
they didn't have children. And so they're like, and what killed it was that after hearing that, they turn around and shut the door, and the husband looks at the wife and goes, "See, I told you I heard walking upstairs."
Correct.
And that was it. The house was sold.
Correct. But with all of these stories, sometimes I think these entities do it on purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
So they put it in front of the windows. They want everyone to see.
Oh, absolutely.
There's like a demon going, it's about 4:00. John's going to be walking by here in about 5 minutes. And then Bert looks over and goes, "Not my day today." John looks over and goes, "Whoa, look at that." "Bert, where are you going?" "Well, listen, we got that corner store appointment here in a couple of minutes. I hate to be late for it."
Yeah, seriously, man.
Yeah, there's something
Need
about
that soda pop.
Whenever you get, any of these stories where it's like they're doing things blatantly in front of windows, I have to assume, and I think that goes back to almost like getting an energy from that. It's like a high is how I'd put it. Like an energy high that they can feed off of. I really look at a lot of these entities similar to almost like a vampire would feed off of blood, but they're feeding off of some sort of energy.
It's energy vampire. Yep.
So
they're just getting all that yumminess. Yep.
Correct.
Oh yeah.
Which, by the way, I watched a video of yours today, in fact.
Yeah.
I watched it on the Mimic, and I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Shouldn't have done this. This one time of the day. I'll come back to this a little bit later.
Oh, man. Those are so creepy.
I can't stand them. But I think they feed off of energy, too. That's why I brought that up. Watching that video, it's like, when you see these kind of cases, the first thing I always look at, no matter what the paranormal is like, what's the point? Like, why did they do X, Y, and Z? Why was there scratching? Why was there banging? Why was there throwing of toys? Why was people levitating? And the only thing I could think is they're either trying to show power, dominance, or they're trying to feed off of fear. So a lot of times I think, well, if you maximize the fear that's already in the house, if you can do something in front of a window, is that possibly to feed off of an energy above and beyond what's in that house?
Yeah, that's very true. Also, it's like the whole manifestation thing. It's the whole belief system where nobody believes this house is haunted. The skeptics are saying, "Oh, this isn't true. This isn't true." And when that happens, it's like the energy starts to dwindle.
Right.
Well, hey, guess what? There's somebody walking by the window. Let me go float past the window and get their attention.
Right.
And now it's like, okay, you got someone running to the door. "Hey, I saw something in your window." And now everyone in the house is up in arms and, oh my God. And then that energy is just like, it's taking it in like a delicious smoothie. Like, oh yes, feed it to me. Oh yeah.
Not that it's exactly like this, but this is what I think of. For anyone that's watched Buddy the Elf, when no one believed in Santa, the sleigh couldn't make it. So he had him fly over the crowds of people so that all the power, all that energy would go into that sleigh to get it off the ground. It's like, I really think that's the same thing that's happening in these cases.
That's a perfect analogy. I think you're 100% correct. It's the power of belief.
Mm-hmm. Which makes me wonder why it's like the 70s, the 80s, even into the 90s. I feel like there was a mecca of haunting stories.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I don't feel like there's as many haunting stories as what there was in the 70s and 80s and 90s, which makes me wonder, is it a case where more people might believe but not care? And maybe that's different for them?
So I have a theory.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this will hold weight, but I was speaking to someone about this years ago because I had no clue and they started breaking it down for me. So a lot of older houses were built with limestone.
Oh.
And apparently limestone is a heavy conductor for spiritual energy.
Yeah.
Which I had no clue. I didn't know anything about this stuff years ago. Yeah. I'm like, wait, really? And it's funny because we had where I live, in the area I live, it's a historical area. So we have quite a few limestone houses. And I've heard so many stories of people who have been in those houses and said it just felt so weird. They, there was things that they couldn't explain. So I'm wondering if as construction picked up, as time went on and some of these houses got too old and they had to be knocked down and rebuilt, I wonder if maybe this could be adding to the whole, there's not as many hauntings as there used to be.
That could be, that's a good way to think about it. I've never really thought about it that way, but I could definitely see that. But now it just makes me want to build a house out of gemstones. I mean,
let me know how that works.
Kind of curious now. I just want to be in there summoning some stuff. I'll be like, I'm not playing with the Ouija board, but if y'all want to for just a little while, see what happens. Be like in 13 Ghosts where we lock them into their ghost chambers.
epic movie right there.
I love that movie so much.
Oh, The Jackal.
Oh, it's such a good movie.
Yeah. I honestly felt really bad for the girls, but I also felt bad for Guy and Morris because one thing that I found when I researched these experiences is the skeptics that come forward. And some of these skeptics they're really smart people. They have great credentials. Some of their names escape me, so I apologize. But to hear the things that they're saying and to know what type of lifestyle this family has, I guess just like the dad in me is like, man, you need to be smacked a little bit. That's just mean.
Right.
It's heartbreaking, man, because there's people going through the experience and breaking it down. And for example, you have Janet producing these voices that a girl her age should not be able to make. And they contact, I forget the name of it, but it has to do with your larynx and something about a set of false vocal cords that we all have.
Yep.
But they contacted a specialist who said that with the information that they got when they recorded Janet speaking in these voices, they said there's absolutely no reason why she should still be able to talk after about an hour of doing that.
Correct.
And she did it for weeks at a time. So and then you got the skeptics saying, oh, literally they said these highly intelligent skeptics straight up said, oh, this girl just wants attention.
Right.
And I've heard the audio.
Yes.
Me as a grown man full of testosterone and in my 40s, if I made the voices she made, my voice box would be shot for the rest of the day. It would be.
Well, think about it. When we record these episodes, I can only speak for me.
Yeah.
But by the end of like an hour, I start losing my voice anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
And you got to think that's with no strain. Like, this is just my normal voice. This isn't anything different. Like, I'm not trying to sing in a higher octave. I'm not trying to do any of that. You have a girl that's talking at least, I would say, 10 octaves lower than her actual voice. And it's very spooky to listen to. If you actually go back and listen to the video that I put out, the very beginning of that video, that deep voice is her voice.
That's the little girl. For those of you that haven't seen the first part of the Enfield Poltergeist, go back and watch it. The very first beginning of that video is actual audio of Janet speaking in that voice.
And the other thing that no one really talks about is she had a different accent and dialect with that voice than she does herself. It's a different, like, one is from what they considered a more posh area. And the other one, like, if you look and listen to that voice, the first thing I think is it is a sailor that is on a ship all day long. They got a potty mouth. Like, that's the first thing that pops in my head. And I don't think a little girl her age, if she's faking the voice, I don't think she's going to fake the dialect, the accent. She's not going to do all that. That doesn't make sense.
I don't see her going through all that just to get a rise. And it didn't help. So it didn't help, though, that there were a couple instances where Janet and Margaret did stage a couple things. Yeah. But here's where I actually wasn't, it didn't do anything for me as far as thinking it was fake. I actually was kind of proud of them because it was these girls who are going through this crazy experience in their life. It's ridiculously horrifying, and they're still finding the time to be young girls and have fun. And there's a situation where they go to mess with one of the cameras, and what they didn't realize was that Morris had the camera recording 24/7. So when they came back and they're like, oh, the camera's moved. How did it move? He runs back the footage and he hears Janet telling Margaret, hey, let's move it. And then we can just act like the spirit did it. Yeah. And it was just really funny. But that didn't deter me whatsoever into thinking, oh, these girls faked the whole thing. I marveled at their ability to play a practical joke and actually be able to have genuine laughter. Like, if I was a child going through what they went through, I'd be miserable. I'd be scared all the time. Anytime something moved or there was a noise, I'd be jumping up the walls. And here they are playing tricks and having a laugh. And it's just like, kudos, man. Good for you.
The thing that I'm always shocked by is the number one thing that all skeptics say. Well, clearly it's got to be fake, and it's got to be fake because of that one specific moment, right?
Yeah.
But to someone that believes, I sit back and I go, if we believe, and we believe that in this case, whatever this entity is levitating a little girl.
Yeah.
That they're talking through this little girl, that they're throwing things around the house. You don't think that they can put those thoughts into her mind anyway?
Exactly.
Who knows what she's truly going through? Who knows what subjectiveness this entity is putting onto her? Like, how many cases have you studied on hauntings where one person becomes possessed and they turn into a completely different person?
Oh, so many.
So many, right?
It's a calling card.
Literally a calling card. Like, it's a, hey, this is stage X, Y, and Z of this haunting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But the reason that happens is because it takes over a portion of the person's brain. So to believe that they wouldn't have these malice thoughts of whatever it may be And that's not coming from the entity. I think that that's short-sighted on some of us believers. No differently than even if you look at like Marcia and the Lindley Street haunting. You know, they found her tipping that TV over.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the thing you want to stand on. And this haunting's the same way. It's like, you know, listen, there, if you believe, you believe. If you don't, you don't. That's fine. But to just be a skeptic, sometimes I feel like a skeptic just wants to point and say, see, I told you so.
Yes.
And that drives me
absolutely.
crazy. But we do the same thing, because sometimes as believers, it could be literally something fell down just from natural causes. We go, look, see, I told you that was a ghost. You got to be somewhere in the middle, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And what kills me though is it's like you'll see 10 different experiences that you can't explain. Yeah. You know, they've got like with the Marcy thing, you had items levitating that were so heavy. Yeah. You had stuff moving around. You've got neighbors, police, outside bystanders, and the family that lived there seeing this stuff happen right in front of their eyes. But then the one time that they see the girl tip something over, oh, it's all got to be fake. It's it's like, why does it take so much to make you believe, and then just one thing, it's off the table all of a sudden?
That's just the way hauntings are. And I think that's what makes it so tough. Like for the investigation that Nick and I are doing this year, I told him, I said, the first thing I want to do is put static cameras in every room. Yes. And then when we got body cameras up, if someone goes, okay, you tipped that or you caused that, now we can go to the static camera and go, this is what was in the room and here's where everybody was.
Exactly. Yep. It's insane, man. And I feel bad for Janet, because the one thing that they realized is, okay, yes, the mother's brother, John, saw a lot of these experiences, but it all centered around Janet. So whenever Janet went on holiday or whenever Janet left, everything calmed down. Now it didn't disappear, but it calmed down astronomically.
Yep.
And my question is, what is it that the house only really acts up when she's there? So it's like, is she haunted? Well, if she's haunted, then why isn't it following her places, right? Like, why is it that she can go somewhere else and nothing's happening, but when she comes home, everything starts jumping?
I think it's literally just a food source. I think there's a portal there that somehow was opened, and she's just, unfortunately, she's the nutrition for whatever this is.
Yeah. That honestly, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's wild.
Now, sometimes I think if you go someplace, I mean, I've seen stories. I just did one recently. It was on, I can't remember the name of the family, but they left and the haunting continued.
Ooh.
When they moved to the next place. And in fact, it slowed down. So it's almost like, when you look at all these hauntings, it starts out slow and then it picks up. When they move, it starts out slow and it picks itself up.
Yeah.
So my thing is, I think sometimes, like a prime example, when we go to investigate, the first thing that we want to do is cleanse ourselves on the way out and lock whatever that is at that property. You cannot follow me home. This is your possessed area. You are not allowed to follow me. You cannot come into my home. And then you almost make it to where they're locked off. It's like, this is your caveat of an area right here. Yeah. So I think if you don't do that, that entity then can follow you, and then they can open that portal wherever you go.
Oh, yeah. And that's just horrible right there.
But if this entity knew that Janet was going on like a little vacation, why does he care? She's coming back. He knows she's
exactly.
Coming back.
Yep.
So he's
this poor girl.
Here comes food.
Yeah. And then, she comes back home and now everything's in full blown activity. And they've got this crazy audio of Morris. Now they're all sitting around and they hear a dog barking. They don't own a dog, so they're all looking around. And of course, Peggy and the girls are like, yeah, that's the poltergeist. You got maybe one person in the room who's saying, could just be a dog. And then, you've got Guy and you've got Morris. Morris says, hold on a second. Listen. And the dog's bark gets more aggressive. And now it sounds like it's in the room with them. And he's looking around. Nobody's mouth is moving. So what does Guy do? Guy says, Morris, try talking to it. And he does. Mm-hmm. And what happens is crazy because Morris speaks to this phantom barking and he says, I want you to talk to me. Tell me my name. What's my name? And this phantom bark turns into a voice that says Morris. Mm-hmm. And you can hear it clear as day. You can't confuse a dog bark with a dog saying Morris. And it was that creepy voice that they heard coming out of Janet. But now it's not coming out of Janet. Right. It's materializing out of the air. So now how do you go back and say, oh, Janet was just faking it with the voice she was doing? Well, who was making that voice when Janet's mouth is closed?
Correct. Well, what experiment they did to Janet.
Go ahead. I was going to jump on that. Go ahead. So this is good.
The way that they tried to prove that Janet was faking this voice to begin with was they would make her put water in her mouth and then tape over her lips. Yep. And then they would tell this entity to speak to me. And without the capability of exhaling, and some people can be like, well, she could still do it through her nose. It would not sound the same. It would not. And the voice never changed. It was the same. And when she would be done, she would spit the water out.
Yeah. She never swallowed the water. That was crazy. But that's what I'm saying. You've got irrefutable proof like that.
Yeah.
But they want to write it off because there's recording of her moving the cameras as a joke.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Correct.
It blows my mind, man.
That's the way.
It blows my mind.
That's the way that you have to be so careful. And sometimes, the way I handle all stressful situations is I laugh through it. That's just me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of children do the same thing too. Typically the kids at school, the ones that get bullied the most, generally those are the funniest kids. And it's just their defense mechanism to get away with stuff.
Yeah.
So to think that these kids wouldn't do some type of a practical joke with a camera or something like that, it's so far-fetched that you have to go, all right, you guys are really reaching now.
Yeah.
We are still talking about kids. As an adult, I would almost do the same thing as an adult just to make an awkward situation more enjoyable.
Absolutely. Because what else are you going to do in that situation?
Correct.
It's everyone thinks that they're going to be in these situations and they're going to be so horrified and they're going to freeze up and they're going to have a heart attack. But that's not how your brain works. Your brain, faster than a lightning bolt, immediately says, nope, we're going to make this like it's nothing. We're going to laugh it off. We're going to make a joke, or we're just going to keep on trucking. Correct. And that's what happens. The amount of people watching this video right now who have probably had a paranormal experience and don't even realize it because their brain said, you're out of your mind. That's just the house settling, or that's just a car driving by. And you don't think nothing of it because your brain knows you can't handle that type of truth. So we need to just push it to the side and you got to keep going.
Correct. 100%. Which makes it hard. But again, it goes back to what we was talking about earlier also. Who's to say that's why things don't manifest now?
Yeah.
We're not giving it the energy that we truly need. Because there's not even a ton of TV shows. You look at the TV shows nowadays, we have the cinema TV shows, movies that come out. But how many shows is on TV that has to do with hauntings?
It's very true.
When I was a kid, we had Unsolved Mysteries. We had Paranormal State. We had Taps Paranormal. I mean,
oh, I loved all those shows.
Yeah, Celebrity Paranormal, I think was the name of it. I mean, we had all those. So for us, we watched that, and then you start to believe a little bit more. You're like, well, crap, I can't explain that.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden you start thinking, okay, well, maybe there's something there. And then you hear something, you go, well, maybe that's something. And then I feel like they can feed off of that. But if it's not in front of your face every single day with a TV show, I mean, like you can watch YouTube and find stuff like that. But how many people searching, besides myself and John, searching for something on YouTube that's kind of scary?
Yeah. And it doesn't help that YouTube, a lot of social media actually doesn't really push the creepy, supernatural, paranormal, unless you're like the above average content creator who is like killing it. There's actually been a lot of discussion in the paranormal community about how these platforms, they don't really want to push that type of content.
Right. Which is crazy. So, everyone wants to get a little scared from time to time.
Yes.
It's fun. I mean, we got an entire month for it. I mean, October is literally the scary month.
It gets that dopamine going.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know, it's kind of sad, but I think the worst part about this whole situation is that it has such an anticlimactic ending. So Morris brings in a medium, okay, and he only referred to him by one name, and that was Dono, and he was from the Netherlands. He was a Dutch fellow, and they had to bring in a translator with him. So they brought him in and basically kind of relayed the message of what was going on and if he could help them out. So like the smoking gun of the West, this guy strolls up in there, introduces himself to little Janet through an interpreter, buys her an ice cream, and then lets him know, okay, I'm going to go upstairs by myself. Goes upstairs. He's gone for 20 minutes max, comes back down, looks at his interpreter, says something in his language, and the interpreter looks at the guys and says, all right, everything's gone. And that's it. All the activity ceases. And they described it. Morris said, either he's really good at his job or he is amazing at the power of suggestion, because after he came out of that room and said it was gone, it was gone. And that was it.
He was doggone Chuck
14
Norris.
months. Yeah, 14 months. Could you imagine? You go 13 years living in a house where everything is normal. And then for 14 months, you get some of the most profound poltergeist evidence in history. And then this dude rolls up in there like Chuck Norris, buys you an ice cream, and then 20 minutes later, everything you've experienced in the past 14 months is done. Like priests, like you said last video, where's the priests? No, they didn't want to. Oh, not Dono. Dono said no. He rolled up in there and shut it down, and everything stopped. Insane.
You know what it was? He's like Chuck Norris. He possessed the demons. What he did. Yeah. Demon rolled out. Demon's like, nope. No. We're out. Son.
No. He possessed the possessor.
Feeling myself getting possessed. No.
Oh my goodness, man.
That's
and it's sad because I like I said, I feel bad for the girls, absolutely, but I felt so bad for Morris, because the one thing I picked up through the whole research of this whole situation is how bad he just wanted the public to see they're not lying. Right. This is really going on. This family is really dealing with one of the most stressful paranormal situations in history. They're still managing to function and move forward. And he wanted their story told so bad. And it was just like every time he made it to a plateau of where things were so believable that one thing would happen. And it's like it knocked him down a peg. And it's just, what do you do? Where do you go from there? You know?
I think that unfortunately, when it comes to him and what's the other guy's name?
Guy Playfair?
Yeah. When you look at the two of them, you know, they came in not only just trying to prove the existence of this for the family, but this was like their one shot of getting some of the most profound, because nothing after that even touched.
Yeah.
For them. Like that was the most, like if you and I was to go on an investigation.
Yeah.
If we got 1/5 of that, that's the Holy Grail.
Yeah,
now,
seriously.
Think about them. They're getting everything, and then in just literally a flash of lightning.
Yep.
Done. And then you know, it's like when you have that video that just goes viral.
Yes.
And it's like, I'm never going to be able to top that video again.
Yep.
That was my moment. Or like a one-hit wonder.
Pretty much.
You know, that's how they had to feel. Like, how long have they been doing it? They had never had an experience like this before.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's a book that I read. It's upstairs. But it's by a gentleman named Derek Prince. I don't know if you've ever read any of his books.
I don't think I have.
He was a demonologist and a very highly regarded demonologist. And he wrote a series of books that he talked about his experiences. He talked how to look at demons and entities, how to prevent demon oppression, all these different books. But anyway, one of the ones he wrote was on spiritual warfare. And he talked about how he was going from spot to spot and he was helping these people get out of these demonic possessions. He said that he did a missionary trip in Africa. And of course, you know, different language and stuff like that. He went into this tribe and they said that one of their tribemen was possessed. It was their version of possessed. So he goes in and the guy starts speaking to him in English, which is not, they're not taught English.
Yeah.
But then the demon there in Africa was like, I know who you are. And he goes, well, if you know who I am, then tell me, you know, where do you know me from? And it was a demon that he was a part of expelling from another man from a case from like 10 years before. And he told him what his name was. He told him what case it was. He told him things about his life. But the crazy thing was, somehow that demon had watched him from that moment until the moment they just met again. And he's like, oh, wow. Well, you know, I know this is going on with you and your wife, and I know this is going on and that's going on. So, you know, if you're like Derek Prince, or in this case, like Guy or Morris, and you have that one profound moment, that moment where you scratch your head and you go, you know, can I one up this? Is this ever going to be a thing where I can now write another book or create another movie or have another piece of anything that's going to make me somebody? They know that's the moment. And, you know, it's almost like, it's a horrible analogy. I'm going to apologize up front for this one. Okay. It's like Machine Gun Kelly and Eminem when they got into that rap beef. And Eminem said, this is your moment. Don't screw it up. I'm gonna give you a career so I can ruin it. That's literally what these folks are going through.
Yeah. Well, you have this amazing video on your channel where you do an interview with a medium. And I really like one of the things she said when she talks about how time works in the spirit realm. It's not so much that they see everything in, I guess, linear. Yes. But it's everything happening all at once, and they choose where they want to move in and out of. Yes. So when the demonologist made himself present to this demon and removed it, I feel like maybe it went back to that spirit realm where it could look at all time at the same time and said, that's who it is. That guy right there is the one who kicked my butt. Well, let me see what he's doing, and just has the ability to view everything that's just with a quick look. It kind of makes you wonder if that demon came back purposely so that he could reach out to him.
Correct.
And let him know, I'm watching you, bro.
Correct. The psychic you're talking about is Emily Quinn. Amazing. She's an amazing storyteller, and she has this perspective, and it's not the first time I've heard some of that stuff, but it always amazes me because, of course, in our time frame, you know, we're stuck with the capability of just seeing this moment. Everything that happened, you know, in this case, 50 some minutes ago was the beginning of our podcast. We can never go back to that. But in their realm, it's like a DVR. They can kind of flow in and out of different time frames. But it also makes me think, there was an interview I did with John Griffin, and a fascinating interview, by the way. He's got an amazing YouTube channel also, but he lost his brother, Jeremy, and now he and his brother was a paranormal investigator in life. And John also runs paranormal investigations, but he and Jeremy work back and forth from the two realms. Now, an interesting thing that they did was John told Jeremy, I'm going to put this recorder in your bedroom, and I'm going to take a recorder with me in the car, and I'm going to drive away, and I'm going to talk to you, and I want you to respond back. But I want you to stay in your bedroom. And the fascinating thing is, no matter though John got farther away, the two recorders was picking up the same answers, but the farther he drew away, the one in the car, it's like it got farther away, like a walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
So it was breaking up more.
Oh, shit.
But the brother, Jeremy, could still hear the conversation going on from miles away. And that's something similar to what Emily also said, which is, for them, time and space is not an obstacle like it is for us.
Yeah.
Which also, I don't know how many times you've looked into like this kind of research, but everyone goes, well, why is all these ghosts in cemeteries? Like, I wouldn't be in a cemetery. That's not where they live. And I sit there and I think to myself, well, you probably took them to the cemetery. You know, if you're thinking about them, if you're saying their names, even if it's someone you don't know and you're looking down at the gravestone, who's to say you're not pulling that energy to that spot? And that's why you're having that moment there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where you get a lot of the energy too, because what do we notice about cemeteries? That's where loved ones come to lay flowers. You have people who will visit the grave of a loved one, and they will do it as a type of therapy. They'll cry it out. They'll laugh it out. They'll hug the tomb. There's so much energy that they put into it. Like we've said before, it's like putting out a snack. Now, the loved one's spirit isn't malicious, but you're offering up this abundance of delicious energy. Absolutely. I'll take that, you know, without hurting you. You're going to give it, so I'll take it. And that's what happens. People see these, you know, they see these spirits and they get these feelings when they're in the cemetery, and they think that it's only subject to that space. No, it's just, that's where you choose to pour out that energy that it's looking for.
Correct. There's a whole different way of looking at so much of this. And I think we're only scratching the surface of what we truly understand.
Yeah, we are.
But if you look at stuff from the 70s and 80s, we had zero perception. I mean, very minuscule. At best, I would say 10% understanding. But I feel like we're on the precipice of truly uncovering something, especially with John. What John is doing right now is absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. You know, when you look at the things you're going to be doing in the next series of, you know, with your channel and how you're telling these stories, you're opening up energies also.
Oh yeah.
And
boy.
I think that, you know, who knows what kind of epiphanies you're going to come to.
Right.
You know,
well, that's like you. Look at what happened to you. You know, you're laying down those videos. You're talking about the scratching, and look at what happened to you. You're laying in bed and what?
That's the thing. You just don't know. You have no clue what you're opening up. You know, it's one of those things where I think one day we're going to lean back and we're going to go, oh, probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
You know, but until that moment happens, listen, hey, it is what it is. But I think that's, you know, some of the interviews and stuff that I've been bringing on and that I'm going to be bringing on, you know, you really have to question, okay, what's that opening up?
Yeah.
You know, like we talk about the Ouija board and stuff like that. I honestly feel like that's just a conduit for them to come through.
Yes.
But are we doing the same thing when we bring some of the people we bring on? Like, that's a different kind of energy.
I think we are. I think we are pulling people into our space that come with a whole separate vibe.
Yeah.
And they're just bringing it in, and they're leaving, you know, and that's how they describe a lot of ghost encounters, as intense energy that's on a loop, just replaying itself over and over again.
Yeah.
You know, who knows what we're bringing into our house when we invite these people in. And I've got, like you, I've got 2 people lined up to sit down and share their experiences with me. And now I'm nervous. Should we do it at the park? Maybe.
That's the thing. You open yourself up possibly.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like, you really have to look at even like your experiences, right? Like you told your experience, a couple of experiences on my channel last week.
Yeah.
You know, you have to look at, okay, that energy that happened, right? What did that manifest in my house?
Ooh. Oh, I see what you're saying there.
Yeah. And the experiences that I told last week on my channel, you listen to that. Now you became a part of that too.
I did. And let me tell you, when I went to bed that night, I was definitely keeping an ear out.
But that's the thing, right? It's like maybe that's opening something up. We just don't know.
Yeah, that's so true. I guess to anyone watching, careful.
Yeah.
We're opening some doors.
You know,
might be
something interesting. And, you know, it doesn't matter if people subscribe to it or not. I did a little bit of research there for a while when I was looking into demonology.
Yeah.
And one of the things they talk about, which is a little scary, is demons oftentimes will work through music and through television and movies.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And one of the things they talk about is, depending on what you watch, you may be opening up a portal in your own residence or the music that you listen to.
Yep.
And there is a song that I know right now has demonic reference in it.
Ooh.
And it's, if I showed it to people, if I told you, you guys would never believe it. We covered it on a podcast on my other channel, Deceptive Reality. And I showed the music video where it happened. And the person I showed it to goes, I had no clue. I can't believe I didn't know this until now. And that's
crazy.
I will not divulge that. I'll tell John off.
Yeah, you guys got to go check it out.
But
you got to go check it out.
It's creepy. It's literally creepy. It's creepy to know that kind of thing exists.
That's crazy.
Super crazy. Ooh. And this is a song that I've listened to 1,000 times. My kids sing the song. No concept that's what it means.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. I'm kind of nervous. I'm kind of nervous for you to tell me later now.
Like, I don't even know. Maybe I've sang that song. I don't know.
I might. Yeah, I might have. Holy moly.
I guarantee you've sang it.
I'm sure I have.
And your wife is, Your girls probably sang it. Your kids have probably sang it, and zero concept what it means.
Oh boy. Well, I guess that's just another therapy visit.
Amen. Listen, that's what we need. We all need some therapy.
Oh yeah, here. Pretty much. Well, that is all I have for you guys tonight. I appreciate you stopping by. And as always, Bert, Retraced Echoes, a pleasure.
Pleasure was all on this side. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And before we go, there's one thing I want you to take away from this video. The most important thing, make sure you leave a light on.
Oh, so good.